Oh, Chris, I almost had it perfect, but of course I forgot to put the audio back on for our opener. So close, so very close, and now I'm hearing the audio right there. There you go, Chris. Now we're good to go. What's going on, boys and girls? This is the usual opener for our podcast where it's a giant mess.
Yeah. I don't expect anything better from you.
You really shouldn't at this point. I'm pretty sure I've set the bar pretty low. It's not going to change.
I can't even say I'm disappointed. It just is.
It just is. This is like it's like physics. It is the way it is.
Speaking of which, guys, those in chat here that are first to join us, as always, no faith in Ryan. Please let us know how the audio levels are doing. We were having a few issues there, but I think it's Ryan's headset shit in the bed. So, welcome to episode 86. It's going to be a bit of a mishmash of things today, I think. Ryan and I have a lot of things that we wanted to kind of catch up on with each other. And so welcome to the conversation. I don't know why I said it like that. And yeah, we're going to talk about some games that we're playing that we didn't get reviews up for. We'll give you a heads up on games that we are reviewing. We're going to talk...
this is basically our dumping ground for the games we don't have time for.
Yeah, well, I mean, and some of them are pretty cool. It's not that they're just shit games, we just didn't get to them.
Or they're just not our jam, I guess, is also a big part of that, where I can't possibly review. I mean, Cube is a game that I can't review, but I'm going to talk about it because that's what we do here.
Pronounced Sayub.
Dude, up until today, I've been pronouncing it Sayub. Up until today, I've been pronouncing it Sayub. And only when I was playing yesterday did I realize, I was like, wait a second, it's probably pronounced Cube. And I'm an idiot.
But you don't feel bad because I've been calling it Sayub in my head since it came out on PC like 2 years ago.
Right, and me too.
And I was like, oh, that's weird. No, Sayub, all right, fine. And then somebody said Cube. I was like, oh yeah, it's probably Cube. Anyway, whatever. You're not tuning in for the academics here. Well, I was going to say something else. Oh yes, we are going to touch base on some current VR news things as well. Most importantly, the whole Flat to VR Studios thing. So we're going to touch base on that. And if
it's getting wild out there. This is as downtrodden as we have been in regards to like the current VR landscape. This week has been an oddly exciting week in regards to VR news and whatnot. I'm not saying it's like amazing, but it's exciting. It's nice to see there's like reasons to get excited over VR. Not that there isn't before.
There is. No, that's the thing, right? There's a lot of things to be excited about with VR. VR is actually, I would say, arguably on an upswing. It's just not in the places that necessarily all of us want to see it. And so, I mean, I know that like my buddy Jason Eliminator, who may or may not be in chat there, he is what I would call a VR optimist, and he would definitely believe in the fact that this kind of like what does the saying go? It's the whole something like rising tides lift all ships. Is that how it is? Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, though. You know what? Even if I butchered the metaphor, you know what I'm getting at, right? Is that like, for example, if things are going well with Apple and Apple's bringing all the conversation around XR and things like that, I mean, it might not be my thing. It might not be about gaming, but it's like, money spent into this technology is going to just make the games I want. Like, it's going to get there, but we'll get to that. Jenna, hello, thank you. I will say that to my Helldiver crew, who I've been playing with endlessly, this snack food that I'm eating right now, Pop-Tarts. I have not had Pop-Tarts since I was like 12, and it's your fault. It's your
My fault?
Not your fault.
Oh, Jenna. Fault. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, gotcha.
It's not Jenna's fault specifically, but she's part of the problem. People have been talking about in the group that I can't remember who it was. Someone specifically was having like blueberry Pop-Tarts, and then I was in the grocery store the other day, and all of a sudden, like, the inner 12-year-old me was just like, Pop-Tarts! And of course, it's got to be s'mores. Because I think s'mores is the only flavor. Here's my advertisement for, oh, look at that. Look at all that chocolatey, marshmallowy goodness.
Dude, they're going to sue us for renting their products on this crap podcast.
Anyways. Let's I don't know. We should kick things off, I guess, here.
I'm going to kick off with Cube.
Before we get into Sayub.
Actually, two things.
Before we get into Sayub, I want to talk about our patrons. Thank you, guys. Just shout out to you, all of you. You guys are awesome. And those of you who participate in the super chat too, We just appreciate your extra kindness, and for those of you who are just here to shoot the shit and support the channel by being here and watching us, and I appreciate it all.
I have
That's
one
all
more thing to say
okay,
before
you
we
do.
get to it. I'm going to be dumping a bunch of quest codes this episode. It's only quest codes, guys. But we've got a huge backlog of a ton of games. Like, so I'm literally just going to go in the order in which we have them because some of these are old, but they should be valid. So if you guys are looking for some free games and you happen to have a Quest headset, every game I'm giving out today is Quest and playable on any Quest headset, or I shouldn't say Quest 2 and up headsets. Because, I mean, Quest 1, come on.
With the possibility of a cross-play title over on the PC side, but you never know. I don't even know anymore.
I don't even know if this will work. Those quest codes are so long, I kind of forgot about that.
Oh my god.
I'll figure it out. Anyways, while we're dealing with that, so talking about Cube, first and foremost, the reason why I'm not publishing a review for this game is because I cannot review this game. This game is entirely, it's just creator based, right? The content is entirely upon you. And so that means I've spent hours and hours and hours in here building some amazing thing that I just don't want to do. I don't have the drive to build a castle in VR. If I had a reason to, there's no combat in this game. It's clearly, it's like Minecraft without the enemies. So it's just about creation. And as far as I know, there's no way to download other people's creations. So it's entirely upon you as the buyer of said game to make these wonderful things. That being said, what's here, when this thing launched on PSVR, I was on the Reddit and people were like, this is beautiful. This is amazing. This kills red matter. It doesn't kill red matter, but it's not to say it's not a beautiful looking game. It's actually pretty stunning at times, just how good this game can look. The weather effects, some of the bloom and lighting. I mean, I literally, I've seen people do it too, but like you can see the light through the trees and it's beams you can see the beams of light through the trees and you can hold your hand up and see like the rays of light passing by your hands, but it looks like realistic. It's impressive as all hell. And of course the worlds are massive because it's a procedurally generated, randomly, I think it's more like randomly generated, but world that you can basically customize to your liking. It's Minecraft, you can build whatever you want. It's a pretty in-depth building mechanics. You can build lots of. I've seen guys make some crazy creation. I was going to pull up some videos of some crazier stuff, but I didn't have time. If you're into creation side of things, if you're just into especially just chilling and, don't mind putting a bit of work in to make something, that you can call home as far as VR goes, Cube it's definitely something else. This game was almost 70 gig download, which surprised the heck out of me.
70 gigs?
Yeah, right?
For what?
66, well, dude, all the effects, man. It's a pretty game. I'll give it that. And like I said, the night cycles,
like a badly optimized title. That's just weird to me, but okay.
Could be. It could be a badly optimized title. I don't know. But my point being is that Cube is. I think if you're looking to scratch the itch, I mean, the best example I have obviously is for PSVR 1 owners who played Discovery. Very, very similar. Very similar, in fact, because Discovery didn't have the same things. There was no combat. There's a couple animals walking around that don't do much. Same in here. It's all about creation, right? But it's like I said, it has to be dependent on you. There's no downloadable content, which sucks. That to me, that's the biggest missed opportunity. Because honestly, if I could like download Shug's Castle,
downloads. I think that's coming. That's something that's supposed to be on their roadmap. I know there's things that they're wanting to add and grow. I mean, it's been in early access on PC for at least a year, probably 2 years. I don't know.
Oh, it's been like, dude, this has been on there for like 6 years. This game's been around forever.
It's been on my radar for a couple of years.
And it's a single developer, so I'm not trying to like crap on the developer, like, why aren't these features in here? But it's just for myself, as someone who would never play a game like this, it's a beautiful looking game. And I would love to be able to like see the things people have created, like actually view them. Because honestly, if it had that feature, I'd recommend this as being one of the coolest, chillest VR games to play. Except like right now, you got to spend hours and hours and hours to build and upgrade and your weapons, and it's all doable in game. It's a lot of work. It's just a lot of work, and to build something that's cool to look at for 5 seconds because there's no purpose.
I hear you. Between you and I, this is definitely much more my jam. I have thousands of hours. I mean, I've talked about this before, but I have probably thousands of hours into Ark. I probably have thousands of hours in 7 Days to Die. I like crafting survival games. I've got hundreds and hundreds of hours into like say like The Long Dark, which to me just like why is this not in VR? For those of you who played The Long Dark, you know what I mean. It just like screams VR. Even the art style would be such an easy game to port over to VR. It runs on the Quest, not the Quest, the Switch. Ugh. Sorry, that just for some people it's BioShock, and I get the BioShock thing of like why the hell do we not have BioShock in VR at this point? The Long Dark is another one of those games. But bottom line is, I really like survival games, and I really like crafting games. And the list goes on. I've played almost all of them, and so it's interesting. My journey with I'm calling it Sayub. Screw him. My journey with Sayub is that
Screw.
it went from me giving zero Fs. See, look at me. Look at me be all
So far, so good. We'll see how that goes. Don't
Oh,
toot your own horn just yet.
I did say shit right in the opening.
Yeah.
Seconds. But anyways, going from not caring at all about this game because screw Minecraft. Like I have no interest. Like I think Minecraft is just it's just dead to me. I don't understand it. I don't get that. Like I don't get those graphics. It doesn't do anything for me. So I lumped Sayub in with that. I was like, oh god, the last thing I need is a poor man's Minecraft.
Yeah.
But seeing it now in the PSVR2, from what I've heard and what I've seen, it's visually at its best on the PSVR2. Like it looks phenomenal. And I was actually hearing some stats around this. It's pretty cool. The developer has actually said that so he used dynamic foveated rendering, which we're all screaming at for developers to use on the PSVR2 because we understand how much power that could like leverage, or at least potential it could leverage out of the PSVR2, the PS5, I guess. And he said that basically confirmed what we've been all kind of talking about. But to hear a developer come out right out and say it, he said, to run this game looking like this on PC, you would require a 3090 without using foveated rendering. And I guess he like kind of originally looked at not doing foveated rendering, but then he said Sony made it easy for him. That Sony actually helped facilitate implementing it. And I'm like, and it's like, okay, like I don't want to hear any developer, and I'm looking at Vertigo games. Lazy. One guy implemented foveated rendering and said it was easy. Ugh, this takes me back to my days, and if Livinator's in here, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The days of the 3D rudder. Oh yeah, the 3D rudder. My
I can drag mine out, so I'm looking at it right now. It's still in a box. Yeah, I got it.
Dude, it's in the museum. I remember the behind the scenes stuff talking to the developers of 3D Rudder and how much of a pain in the ass developers were. Like I remember him approaching oh my god, my brain just went blank.
Firewall.
No, the
No Man's Sky.
The developers of oh my god. My brain.
No Man's Sky.
No. Okay, we're going to get there.
Are we though?
Skyrim. The developers of Skyrim. Why am I pulling
Bethesda?
Thank you.
Jesus.
So I wanted to call them Obsidian, and Obsidian made Fallout 3 Vegas. It's like this weird
so close. So close.
But anyways, I remember they were like, "Yeah, we want $200,000 if you want us to implement the 3D rudder." And they're like, "We could do it for you right now. Like give us 15 minutes in your like behind the scenes on your code and we'll implement it." It's like literally just a controller thing, input thing. And they're like, "No, $200,000." So anyways, I digress, but I don't want to hear any developers complain about not using foveated rendering when that happens. So foveated rendering. King.
Dynamic foveated rendering.
Thank you. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. But you can't even see my finger here. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is when people just refer to it as dynamic or as foveated rendering. And it's like, no. Foveated rendering is that ugly ass thing the Quest does where it takes like this view and only like my face is HD and everything else is like a blur fest. They can do it like this too. Sometimes it's really, really bad on the Quest. But anyway, Sayub really won me over. I was like, damn. Maybe I need to get a copy of this because Ryan got the review code. And I was like, maybe I need to buy it. And I looked at it on the Canadian store. I was like, ooh, it's $40. And then the more I heard about it, I was like, man, I don't know. maybe I need to wait because, like you said, like I love a crafting game. I love a grinding game. I love gathering resources. I like making things. I like surviving things. I have no problem. Like I said to you earlier when we were talking about this, my wife and I used to play Ark, and I'd just be like, so we'd get on there for the night and be like, I'm gonna go collect metal, honey. That's why I want to collect metal. That's what I want to do today. And I was fine with making up my own stuff to do. But with Sayub, it's like there's no point. Like it's like you got to give me something. Like you said, if I was building it to show off to friends, at least that could be something. If there was some type of a dungeon crawler system that you kind of like geared up, like I need something. I need a reason to build the base. Something. Like I said, like you just said, at minimum, I need to be able to show off my creations. But I don't.
Yeah, I mean that's something they said. That's why I'm not reviewing this thing because I can't. Like I can't without a purpose. Like I've said before. Like you know, I'm definitely a single player gamer. I know I love playing through a decent campaign. I just wrapped. I should say just wrapped, but played through max mastered the entire game in like 2 days. I just need that. I need a goal, and when the goal is do what you want, well then I'm gonna go upstairs and watch a movie. And it's not an offense to the game. It's just I'm just not programmed to play these games like this. Like I need a purpose, any purpose. Like if the purpose was like get to the center of the earth, all right, I got like something to do. Like but with this thing is just literally just like explore, be you, have fun, express yourself. I'm like nah.
Now where it started to get my interest, like I said, I kind of did this like full circle thing where I was like, ooh, this actually looked way better than I thought. First of all, like of course it still has that Minecrafty graphics, and I was like, ugh. But the lighting in this and the way
it's so pretty,
like, the way it looks in VR, like it kind of won me over a little bit. And then the other thing that kind of got me interested was watching gameplay of like people like digging down and like just like digging themselves into like subterranean like masterpieces. Like the game can be quite beautiful the way it has like procedurally generated some of its worlds, and it leaves itself I guess open to like actual discovery. And that's really cool. So it's like to me it's almost there. And so I threw it into my wish list, and I'm like, I will return to you when you get all grown up. Like I feel like I think the developer continues to grow that game. I think that's the plan. Hopefully the PSVR2 sales give them some money to do so. And I would really like to see that game develop, because like I said to my one buddy there, all it makes me want to do is go play No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as I'm like, ooh, it's scratching the itch of like resource gathering and building and this and that, I'm like, well, I should probably go play a fully developed game. Anyway, that's kind of how I feel about that. It's not done yet for me. It's not done, and I think it's overpriced for that. But I don't know. I guess moving on to the next game will be something that I played.
What? You played a VR game, Chris? I think we should all, dude. Guys, like,
game.
I should have set up some actual like applause thing for this podcast. Yay!
Man, I have risen from the ashes of depression to put on a headset. Woo! It's been a while. I was playing Happy Funland. Happy fun. All
right, so how many of the words in that game's title are accurate? Is it happy? Is it fun?
There were moments where it made me happy, and I'm going to get into that. So I'm going to give you guys a bit of a rundown on my experience, a quickie, if you will, which is what Ryan had branded his little mini review that he did out there for was it like Aka?
There you go, close enough. Aka R.
So Happy Funland, it is out for PSVR2 and PC VR only. So that alone should get me excited, because this is the premium VR that I was hoping to see just hit PC and PSVR and give the middle finger to Quest 2, because like visuals, yeah. And I'll get to the graphics side of it. I will say that going into this game, I'd seen the trailers like all of you guys, and I really had no idea what this game was. I really didn't. Like, I mean, do you? Like, I had no idea what this game was.
What I thought it
really was
literally changed the day we got the press code. I thought it was like a strip, I thought it was like a horror, like Happy Fun. I thought for sure it was like in a theme park, but I thought it was like a first person horror game, first person VR.
I thought it was
in a theme park.
I thought it might have been a roguelite.
Oh wow.
I mean, well, why wouldn't you assume that? You know what I mean? Like, and I think it kind of got thrown into the trailers with Foglands, and I think I kind of just bundled it in. And so I've played the game. It's only 2.5 hours. That mileage may vary depending on how much you kind of screw around and how much you beeline. You could beeline this probably pretty quick. But I would say 2 hours, 2.5 hours is pretty much where everyone's gonna get in there. And I still don't know what it is. Like, I don't know. It's still a very hard game to kind of to explain. And my opinion of this game has changed in the last 24 hours because I basically blitzed it last night, which is why we don't have a full review. And so I'm going to get into this game into some depth because of that. So jumping into this game, like, really had no idea what it was. And after playing it now, I mean, if I had to explain it, I would say it's kind of a haunted house game. You know, like the name is escaping me, but there was that other haunted house game that we had on PSVR1.
Affected the Manor?
I was just gonna say the Manor, yeah. It kind of it's kind of feeling like that, and they've thrown in some of, like, you know, some of the, I guess you could call it, the thrills of, say, something like Rush of Blood, but not. And I don't want you to get excited about that, because that, I think some people thought that it would go there, and so I'll get into that. So that's, I mean, it really is kind of like a walking horror simulator, and you basically enter into this completely dilapidated abandoned theme park. And I'll tell you though, this is not, I wouldn't call this like an extremely R-rated game. I didn't find it really scary. It's creepy. It's got atmosphere, but it's kind of demented. And like, the reason
I like demented. You got my attention.
This is what I'm saying. The reason that this game kind of has won me over in the last 24 hours, because I was ready to burn it to the ground at first for some of its issues, was that I was like, well, man, you know what? Like, this could be a VR gem, because this is one of those games, especially like on the PSVR 1 days, where you were just like, what? What is this game? And then it was like, and it was memorable, and it was unique, and it was something that you would just never see in the flat gaming world. Like, it is kind of an odd title, and it is quite adult in some of its humor, which I quite enjoyed. And of course, I'll get into that. So, jumping into the game, the first thing that hits me over the head, though, and this is getting into the gameplay things, and I have to address this because if you guys are watching the footage that I would imagine Ryan's throwing up there, yes, he has. Good boy. This game has click turning only.
Oof.
It has no seated play option.
Oh.
Yeah, it does have a crouch, like a click to crouch thing. And I don't know if I messed it up, but somehow I managed to get it so that, like, when I was not crouching, I was high enough that it wasn't driving me crazy. But, like, still, I'm just like, and Perp Games is involved in this. I'm just like, whoa! How do you not have no smooth turning? I'm not done with this. No, you know, you can't sit and play on a game where half of it you're seated in rides, like, ugh. And and to boot, this reminded me of this. Do you remember that horror game called Paper Dolls?
Oh yeah.
Okay. The trigger buttons do nothing. Okay, you know, when you go to grab something, you typically expect now that the grip's going to be kind of the main part of the hand, and the triggers are going to be kind of that finger, and that'll be the complete grip. At least a lot of games do it that way. When you pull the triggers on this, on either the left or the right controller, you just walk forward. And it reminded me of Paper Dolls, because I think they did something like that.
No, it wasn't Paper Doll you're thinking of. I know the game you're thinking of because, yeah, I know. I can't remember the name of the game. That's going to bother me now because, yeah, it was unplayable because of that. And they fixed it, by making it worse.
Yes.
It wasn't Paper Dolls, though, but
No?
I know. I wish I could remember the name now.
Wasn't it that game that was too dark? Like, it was super dark.
It was so dark. And yeah,
Dolls.
no, you had to use the left and right triggers.
Yeah.
Like it was like a footstep. So
you had to walk.
Right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, and they changed it so you had to, like, hold the buttons down instead. It was something. The change didn't fix it. It was. I wish I could remember the game.
So it's not like that, but it does have. But it's just like they didn't know what to do with the triggers, and now they're walk buttons. Like, well, we should give them that option as well. Maybe they don't want to use analog sticks. I'm like, so in my head, I'm like, was this originally like, was this a holdover from the PSVR 1 days? Because there's parts of this game that make me. It feels like it could have been something that started back on PSVR 1. Just, I don't know. I just get this inkling of it. So you get into the gameplay, and like I said, like it's a fairly basic title. It's not quite a walking simulator. It tries to do some other things, but it doesn't do them that well, and that's the problem. Like, so for example, there's like 18 holes of golf throughout the course. Essentially, essentially the whole Funland is like one big kind of like mini golf course in a way, in the fact that it's like it's just, you just go through the different holes and experience like rides, and again, it's like it's an abandoned funhouse, so, or I guess theme park, and so you go, you spend your time walking through like merch areas and abandoned like food vendors and game booths and stuff. But the game, it's like, it's so underutilizes that. Like, it's got really janky physics. Like, you could take a golf club and just whack a wheelchair and the wheelchair goes flying. Like, it's that type of, it's got that level of physics play. So going around and picking up and throwing around and playing things, because you can interact with lots of stuff in the world, is just, it doesn't feel good. It's not fun. It just the whole thing feels janky. Then you throw in the jank controls, and you're kind of always fighting the controls, and you're flipping around with your mandatory click turning, which drives me crazy. There's no run button, so you're just kind of at the game's walking speed, which changes from time to time, which is also odd. And like, don't get excited about the mini golf, because if you're a walkabout fan, you're like, yeah, more. No, this is not walkabout mini golf. This is jankabout mini golf. It's horrible. It's you like tap it and the ball goes flying away. And I literally just like would just guide the ball.
You were sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
You were right. It was paper dolls. I was thinking of Weeping Doll. So my apologies.
Yay me.
Good job.
I couldn't remember Bethesda, but I got paper dolls.
That's your VR brain in full effect there. This is the world we live in.
I
apologize for interrupting you.
Anyways, the mini golf's horrible though. Like, and I literally just guided the ball. Like, I'm like, just come along, just get. I mean, sometimes it's fun. There's like a, like stupid fun. Like, there's a mousetrap on the golf course, and you hit it, it goes bling, and you're like, I don't care. Like, because you have to get the ball in the hole often to like open a door in advance. And they give you a golf scorecard. I'm like, why? Why are you giving me this? Because this is not fun. This is not skillful. You can't play with a second person anyways, so you're just whacking away on your own.
You're playing with yourself?
I'm used to this, right? But anyhow, the game just, it has ideas that are good. It has atmosphere that is good. The humor is quite adult, like I said. Like, you go up to one of the rides and it's like, you must be this high to ride, and it's like a woman with her boobs hanging out, and it's like, and there's the line of like right at her nipple point and stuff. And it's like definitely got this like demented like side to it. Like, there's a ride you take later on. It's just a slow little boat ride, and there's like little kid dolls from like different cultures, like little Chinese dolls, like jumping off of the buildings with their heads burning, and they're screaming at you, and you have to like whack at them, and just very bizarre. There's a ride you take which made me laugh out loud. It's basically a pro drug ride, and it's just a bunch of stoned like squirrels and like bears, like in cartoons, like, don't do the hard drugs, kids. And there's like little squirrels with like syringes, and then you like actually end up having a drug trip, and you're like walking through parts of the park as it's like messing with you. And there's like, you like stumble across like an animatronic squirrel that's like died from an overdose, and there's a needle in its arm. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah, like there's times when the game goes hard. And it made me laugh. I was like, now you have my attention.
I guess so.
Like, and the game is at its best when it's doing this dark, twisted sense of humor. It's at its least charming when it's doing just like, I don't know, like when you just have animatronic creatures kind of just charging at you in the world, and the combat, if you want to call it that, is just, you just whack it. You just whack about it with like whatever you either have a garbage can on your hand or the golf club. They tell you should use this as a weapon. And I'm like, okay, so I'll carry this. I should probably hold on to my golf club. And you just whack them till they die. Like eventually you just start going and until their heads explode. Like combat just becomes irritating because they stay alive too long. And that's kind of the game. Like you just go from like
Is there a goal or story? Did I miss that?
to get to the end of the park.
Okay, gotcha.
There's kind of a storyline, to be honest with you, and I don't really remember it. Like there's a setup in the very beginning. You meet this like redneck who like takes you down this riverboat ride, and he like tells you about this like because it's like this park is like in the back of like an overgrown part of the jungle or something, and he's telling you the story of the Happy Funland Park, and that like I don't know why you want to go see it, and but honestly, I don't know what he was saying that much because I was so infuriated with trying to figure out the controls. But I will say, in the very beginning, there's a bit of an Easter egg. You have to go get a flashlight and you open up the toolbox. And for anyone who knows me and my weird infatuation with this, the game gives you a purple dildo right in the beginning. It's like, do I take the flashlight or the purple vibrator? It made me so happy. Almost got a 9 out of 10 for this.
Almost.
But again, I want to cycle back to the fact that when the game is at it has moments of brilliance. Like there's the old rides, especially the rides that you used to ride as kids. Like everything is based on kid rides, so you're not going to have any crazy roller coasters and stuff. But there is this one point where you get into like it's like I don't know, it's like where the airplanes would go like this as it would turn around, right, go in circles, and it goes up and down. And man, like you can put blinders on. I didn't have them on, and I was like, this is awesome. Like the sense of height. Also, the reprojection kicked in a little bit because it is using that, so which might be one reason why they don't have smooth turning on. But I will tell you, riding that ride, I was like, this is awesome. And that footage is in the video here. I don't think we're not quite at it yet here, unless we've already looped around it. But it was awesome. And when it's doing some of the fun rides, it's like kind of like, yeah, this is if the game had managed to dial in, like if the physics were right and the humor was on point and the game didn't control so jank, it would be fun to just walk around this park, mess around with shit, take in the humor, do the rides, enjoy some of the dialogue humor, and it'd just be this 2-hour little like VR gem of an experience. And one of the things that helps the game is that the graphics are quite decent. Like you jump into this game and it's like, this is not a Quest game. And I love that. I wouldn't say it's graphically amazing. You're not going to be like, oh my God, did Capcom make this? What first party studio made this? But no, it looks quite good graphically. Like the textures and some of the lighting are really on point. The park itself just feels like it's got a very rich and detailed look. That's the big thing. It looks lived in and dated and abandoned. Like it feels like this creepy, gross, twisted park, and it lives on that atmosphere. And if I wasn't constantly click turning my way through the world, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. The frame rate, I am concerned that that's why there's no smooth turning. Like I feel like it's just getting by. I wouldn't say it wasn't like vomit inducing, but I wouldn't say it was the smoothest game. I could tell that it was just hitting those frame rates. So I don't know what patches are going to be in the future. Didn't look like it was using dynamic foveated rendering to get there. The fact that it's a PC game as well, I bet you it's not. But I did feel like there was reprojection when you started circling fast on the rides, but you don't notice that normally just based on the click turning and stuff. But I don't know. My overall takeaway of the game, Joe, is just like it's okay. Like I think people were really hyped about this being this really cool PSVR2 game, and it's just okay. It needs a patch badly. It really needs that control patch. Like my recommendation to people would be like, I'm not going to give it a number score, but my recommendations with people would be to just keep an eye on this, maybe see if it gets patched, because like especially if you're someone who really likes smooth turning and click turning sucks and ruins the immersion for you, because it does for me.
Oh yeah.
It has like little puzzles thrown in. I guess I should mention that as well too. Like find this and put it there, or find this thing to get into the door. It's got like little traps. Like this one point, you walk into a movie theater, and the ceiling starts to come down. Find a way to escape. It's constantly scattered with these little things for you to do as you get through your adventure. It's just that nothing just it never feels great. There's texture clipping. You can like see into the next room, and you're click turning around, and you're up and down trying to find a proper height that works. There's at one point you get guns when you're on one of the boat rides, and I'm purposely not ruining the second half of the game, by the way, people. This is only about the first hour. There's about an hour and a half more that there's no video footage of, and I'm not getting into, because the game does continually try to feed new ideas, even though it pretty much is recycled versions of what I'm talking about. But you do get guns, and the gunplay, it's not great. Like, it works.
It's not great.
It works. You're shooting things, but the aim seems off, and it just doesn't. The game never feels dialed in and polished enough.
Right.
And I think that was pretty much my biggest takeaway, is that whether the game's for you or not is one thing, because it is kind of an odd little game, but it's like all of these like kind of like fundamentals of just the way you interact with the game world, the mini golf being the perfect example, it just falls apart. It's just like, if the mini golf was good, I could have sat there and just played mini golf for a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
but you don't. But it sucks. It's horrible. Like, it's horrible mini golf. It's just like, get that damn ball in the hole. Like, and it's weak because of that. So overall, I would say that this is kind of a bit of a disappointment. I don't think it's a dumpster fire. I think some people, that's just people disgruntled because they had hype on this, and I didn't really have very high expectations. It was just that quirky game from the game show. So,
all right.
Anyways, that is my take on happy, fun, not so fun land.
All right, I'm going to quickly talk about one more game before we get to our actual stories here, and that's going to be Tin Hearts, which finally got the long-awaited VR patch last week. I think late last week it got the VR patch. And man, I mean, I hate using Lemmings as a reference, because Lemmings is exactly what this game is. Because I'm sure there's a more.
I think that's a good reference, though.
It is. The problem is there hasn't been a Lemmings game for like 20 years, so it's just a dated reference. Like, there must have been something else along those, like a more recent game that uses the same thing that isn't Lemmings that has garnered attention. Because it's Lemmings basically.
Combat in it?
There's nothing. There's nothing in it.
So they don't fight anything. So it doesn't have Pikmin vibes.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't say maybe they do fight something. I haven't got that far if they do, but so far I'm 12 stages in out of 50. And all you're doing is just placing down little blocks to guide these dudes to the end of the map. And it's all in this like inventor's laboratory. So all the environments are like, it's like, it's all realistic, right? You're playing through rooms and dodging traps and everything else. You can fast forward, rewind time, because you have to get, as far as I can tell, you have to get all the little soldiers to the end. You can't lose a single one, or you can't beat the game. So you have to go back and redo it. Some things have to go in specific spots. There's shapes that only go on specific shapes. Others you can kind of freeform, put them wherever you want. There are, as you get through the stages, there's more. They keep introducing new mechanics. So like there's drums. So if the soldiers jump off the table into a drum, they'll bounce to the next location, and it's then you can actually customize where the drums will bounce them to. So you can already tell it's just steadily adding more and more and more levels to just making these things more and more complex. It works. It's fine. It looks.
Are you only ever controlling the guys, or do you get toys and like things that you get to implement?
You can control some. They gave you control of like a toy train. So once you unlock certain powers throughout these stages. So if you see a toy train after that, you can now control it and help that. It's just another obstacle to like help guide these guys, right?
Okay.
Like I said, you get the drums, and you can actually unlock the power to direct the drums to where those guys are going to go.
More toys as you go along, basically.
Yeah. Just like I said, more and more options. I will say for the PSVR2, it is a very blurry game. I'm not going to say it's PSVR1 blurry, but the resolution, it doesn't feel like a PSVR2 game. It definitely feels like I plugged in my Rift for the first time in 5 years and was like, oh, this isn't as good as it looks. Like, it definitely looks blurry. And honestly, this game is a PSVR or a PS4 game as well. And I have to think this is actually just the PS4 version of the game working on PS5. And the reason why I say that is because the thumbsticks don't do anything. To turn, you have to use, I think, the right, like your face button, like on like your X button on the on one controller to turn right, and your O button on the other controller to turn left.
I'm
Like
having
it's super,
PSVR1 trauma.
dude. It feels like move controllers. Like it feels like literally we're like, well, we don't have time to like implement thumbsticks, so we'll just copy the move controller scheme and apply that. So it feels weird as hell to have thumbsticks on a PSVR2 controller and have them not work. It's insane. It's confusing. It doesn't make any sense. I've never heard someone be like, "Yeah, it's really hard to implement thumbsticks on the controllers." Like this is a flat game. This game is obviously I'm assuming it uses the DS4 thumbsticks. Maybe I could be wrong on that one. Either way, it's kind of one of those decisions where it's like, yeah, instead of using the R to shoot, it's X. It's like, well, why would you do that? Because it's a weird thing. And obviously, you can turn in real life and everything else, and you can adjust the game, your height, in the game anytime just by holding down to your trigger buttons. So I like that quite a bit. But yeah, the resolution definitely is. This thing needs a PS5 or a PSVR patch to up that resolution
what it
properly.
sounds like to me is that they took the game and maybe it was the PS5 game, and then just to make it VR, they basically just like turned on stereoscopic and then turned the game resolution down until it ran. That's
Maybe.
what
I
it
mean,
sounds like.
it's
I mean, if you talk to any of the people who have played the UE VR mods on PC there, using the UE VR mod, and you need a hefty PC to basically powerhouse your way through these flat games, because even though they might be AAA games that you can play in VR, there's no optimization done. So you just have to powerhouse your way through rendering it twice. And it just makes me wonder if it was a rushed port to VR. Does the
I
game
mean, say
benefit
rush,
from
but I mean,
VR?
we've been waiting for this VR
Yeah, I
patch. Like
know.
this game came out last summer. It came out, and we got the demo for this in December for the VR version as well.
Could just
So
be
like the VR thing's been cooking for a while.
doesn't mean they were working on it, but does the game benefit from being in VR?
I mean, yes, in the fact you're there. It's not. I mean, you move around the map. You do move around each stage. You do walk around. It's not like you're like no teleport or anything like that. So yeah, to me, it does benefit from being in VR, just because you do have that presence in the real world. You can't really you can't interact with anything outside of the items you can interact with. But yeah, it benefits. It definitely benefits from being in VR. Outside of the fact that the controls are messed up and the resolution kind of stinks, so it's kind of ruined by VR that way. Not ruined. That's dramatic, but it
Would
definitely
you rather
feels
play
like
it in VR?
yes, I would rather play this in VR.
Why?
I like VR. I'd like being able to do this and feel like I'm in a room and feel like
So
I'm,
it's
I'm
worth
in
it.
there.
So
Yeah,
it's worth
and
it.
and there's also a side story there as well with this inventor guy. Like you're in this inventor's house, and so as you travel through each of these rooms, like apparitions of him and his daughter will show up and tell a story that obviously this inventor guy is going through a hard time. Like I only played through a bit of the story, so I can't say too much about it. But he's going through a hard time and struggling, and I don't know how it's going to play out. But so it's definitely one of those like sad, somber stories that I'm hoping will have like a happy ending in regards to like him and his daughter, and it doesn't get like, oh, he died of cancer, yay, nothing, nothing like that. I'm hoping, but so there is there. It's not just Lemmings. There's an overarching plot as well that that unveils itself as you solve puzzles. Like as you solve a certain part of a puzzle, you'll like trigger a cutscene as the toy maker is playing with the next toy that you'll be messing with in your own challenges. So it's there. It's good. I mean, from what I've read, there's like the 50 stages take like 8 to 10 hours to beat. So it's a decent amount of content. It's $20. So if you are into these kind of puzzle type games, it's worth it.
That's not bad.
No, it's a good price for what it is. And like I said, the presentation's there. Outside the resolution, the game looks great. Like, it's a good looking game. You can tell they definitely put a lot of effort into this thing to make it look as good as it does. It's not mind blowing, but it looks really good. Lighting effects, everything else are on point. Like it looks solid. So what'd you say?
It doesn't look questy.
Oh, it doesn't. I think you said it does look questy. I was like, you take that back. No, I'm gonna defend this thing. But no, it's like I said, if you're a puzzle guy, Lemmings is the best example I have. This is Lemmings in VR, but it's a good looking game. I really hope they patch. I hope they patch the controllers. Like, there's no reason not to use thumbsticks in a first person controlled game. That's insane. But outside of that, it's good. It's a solid puzzler. Because I can't score it, I haven't played enough of it, but it's not bad by any stretch, and it's easily worth $20. I guess I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. I'm not a huge puzzle guy, but I like Lemmings. Actually, I like that type of stuff. I like that kind of. I like those kind of thought puzzles. So I might check that out, or at least I'll throw it into my wish list. I guess that's kind of it for the new games. I will just so you guys give a heads up there. If you haven't catched it already, Ryan's got a review for Max Mustard. Review which I'm actually really excited to watch of yours. I won't ask you about. I won't spoil anything, but I'm really excited about that because it kind of looks like the closest we've seen to Astrobot.
If you like Astrobot, you might like Max Mustard.
Supposedly it's coming to PSVR2. I don't think there's a release date on that, but it's on.
Yeah, PC and Steam later. I think they said this year, but they wouldn't say anything more
Quest right
specific
now.
than that.
Right now they're saying only on Quest. I'm actually really excited to jump into that. And for reviews that are coming, Madison will be coming. I think that's in codes are incoming quickly. Ryan's going to be covering that. I'm working on Tropico, and I'm also working on. Oh, I'm going to screw up the title. I think it's
Medieval Dynasty.
No, it's medieval something something something.
Oh, Medieval Dynasty, like New Horizons or something like that. Or there's like a little abbreviation after it. I remember.
It's a VR spin-off, and it looks like kind of living in the life of a medieval person, building, crafting, that type of thing. It kind of gives
a medieval person. I like
that. It gives me vibes of a game that I'm going to forget the name of.
Swordsman VR.
No, it was a PSVR 1 game. Remember the game where you fed the carrot to the horse?
Yeah. The guys from the dudes that are making that legendary. Nope.
Yep, that one. That's the one. And I can see the title.
Yeah, it's got to be Mervils.
Yep, and then and now they're working on the new one that's escaping me too.
This is our the name of the game today. Here is Ryan and Chris's burgeoning not autism oh my god, old Alzheimer's. There you go, Alzheimer's. That's what I was going for. Mervils VR Adventure, and they had
that's a deep cut, sir. Good for you.
You're welcome. And these guys also made, I'm sure chat will get there before we do. Jesus. Vitruvius VR, developer of such games as Mervils and Shadow Legend and Arcan Age is their next one, which looks phenomenal.
Looks so awesome, yeah.
I really hope that delivers because that game, I can't like that. As you see that trailer for that game, and you're just like, how can you not get hyped for that? Like,
yeah,
and it's,
I look at that trailer and it's like it's too good.
I know, right?
I'm like, it's not. There's no way they're gonna deliver with this. I'm like, but I guess I guess thinking back to it, I felt the same thing about their previous title too, right? And so maybe I guess Shadow Legend thing with Shadow Legend VR is it also had that look of like this is amazing looking, and then you realize the scope was pretty small.
Yeah, so it was definitely smaller stages, like tons of freeform VR action, but very small stages to do that action in. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm a little more skeptical of that. But man, I'm trying to keep my hype in line.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
News
time.
Well, you know what? Look, I want to start on the negative thing before and then we can move into the more positive side of things. We got to talk.
PlayStation VR2 is dead. It's official. It's dead.
Haven't you heard? Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. So I guess we got to keep things in perspective. So if you guys haven't heard, there was this news that came out. It was from Bloomberg. So first of all,
dun.
Yeah, and the guy who wrote this is the guy who loves to do doom and gloom for VR articles, especially PSVR.
Yeah, the last article he put out there was what was it? His article was about how many headsets
that it just hadn't sold. I think.
It didn't sell. That was the whole thing.
Right. So this guy's making a career on being a doom and gloomer, and you know what? It's like Ryan and I were talking about this. It's like it's not good news. It's not good. It's not good that like the it's not good for PSVR2 optics, especially for people out there who like us who want it to grow and want new people to buy headsets when what when the buzz you're hearing is it's not selling. What this article said is that Sony has stopped production because they've got a pile up of old stuff, and so they want to sell that off first. I mean, first of all, just take that as a nugget. That's how this works. Like that's how like production works. Is that they'll get rid of sometimes they'll cease production to get rid of supply. Now maybe they were overly ambitious on how it was going to sell. I think we've talked to death that it's like. I feel like that is on Sony. Sony needs to pump the hype train up. They need to show people what to look forward to in the next year. Like, that's on them that people are not running out and buying a headset right now. I'm not even going to get into this whole argument of, whether there's lots of games, good games, I mean, mileage varies on that depending on whether you owned a Quest. If you owned a Quest or a PC VR headset, the PlayStation library is way less exciting. If you haven't and you've been a PlayStation 1 user just waiting for a PSVR 2, yeah, damn. This library is kicking ass. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of good stuff coming from the years of Quest. But not diving into that too much, it's just like, yeah, I'm not surprised that headsets aren't moving. The buzz isn't good.
Yeah.
There's no big games to get excited about right now. There's been Sony shutting down studios, that some that weren't even working on PSVR2 titles, which is in itself, I guess, not great news, but we don't know the ins and outs. The big thing is that with Jim Ryan being out and there's a temporary CEO in, we have no idea what the dynamics are at Sony around PSVR2. Like, it's some Japanese guy, I'm not even going to attempt to butcher his name, who took over for Jim Ryan, and I guess he's a temporary replacement. But like, for all we know, this guy's like loves VR. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't
Does
look good. I mean, somebody pointed out to me, I think it was actually Livinator there, who said, it doesn't look good that it wasn't Liv actually, but it doesn't matter. That Jim Ryan retires and boom, Sony axes production on PSVR 2 and closes down studios that might have been working on PSVR 2 titles, or reduces their employee count.
mhm.
It doesn't look good. It looks like the new guy came in and was like, "No PSVR 2." And it's like, that's not good. But I don't think, we just don't know. We just don't know.
Yeah.
What was your take on the news? Speaking of PSVR 2, around the fact that they've basically seen, I guess, people in the industry have seen like how the implementation of, or at least have seen some of the code around how the PSVR 2 is going to connect to PC, and literally all they did was just like remove all the stop gates so that it
Right.
can be just like basically plugged right in. What
I
is
mean,
your
it's what
take
we
on
expected.
that?
We talked about this before. I mean, I expected it. I mean, people think it was gonna be a wireless solution or some kind of streaming solution. It did. That seemed like lofty at best. Wired into a PC just makes the most sense. So the fact we have confirmation of that is great, because now we know and we can get a little more focused. The fact there's news already coming out that the firmware is already allowing for this stuff, or at least partly, anyways. It's not there yet. It's not available right now, but it's there. This is good. This is like the flip side of the fact that, the headset sales are on hold. I mean, this is awesome news. I mean, I know you guys out there that don't have a game ready PC, you can't use this to its fullest extent, unfortunately, but it doesn't stop you from, ideally, like I said, same things I said before, watching videos in VR, that kind of thing. There's not a lot of stress on any computer to watch VR videos. So if you can, as long as you have a Steam and a VR video player, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go on and watch YouTube or anything else, which is something that the PSVR 2 is lacking severely, in that, there isn't even a browser. I'm not going to say what you're smiling about, but
Totally. Dude, just type those little words in, the PORN
yeah,
HUB.
my point being though is that, like, so even if you don't have a PC that can play games, you still have a PC that can more than likely view VR videos. And so already, if you have that, and even a laptop, you've already unlocked more features of your headset that have been bricked by Sony in the first place on the PS5. I mean, one of the biggest, the fact that PSVR 2 is missing so many features that PSVR 1 had is weird. Like, I understand not being able to play 3D Blu-rays only because that kind of went the way of the dodo, other than the fact that it's actually coming back now, thanks to, I guess, partly because of Apple Vision Pro and just the demand to watch videos in 3D. Like, and just something there. Let's say it's coming back, but stupid video gets me every time. But so it's nice. It's nice to now have that option. But obviously, for those that do have a PC, it's just, it's nice if they can. We don't know yet if they'll unlock the full tech in the headset in regards to haptics and, dynamic foveated rendering. And we don't know that yet. But It's good news. It's this is awesome, and I don't take this as a sign that Sony's giving up. This is everyone keeps saying, "Well, this is Sony giving up," and I don't see that as this is Sony honestly realizing the market and maybe understanding that it's the same reason why Quest is you can play on a PC as well. Like Quest didn't need to have that feature. This wasn't something that's they needed to do. This is it's a bonus feature that now, in my personal opinion, makes the PSVR 2 a more viable option if you're serious about playing VR. And that's kind of my final thoughts on it, really. Um, Unless they throw something weird on there. People are talking about having like an adapter for the PSVR 2 to play on PC, but I just don't see. I don't see Sony selling an adapter for this
No,
feature. That just sounds like it's like ridiculous. Like under the guise that if Sony's giving up on the PSVR 2, why are they going to make another peripheral for their peripheral to play it on a PC? Like it just doesn't make any
no.
sense. So no, this is going to plug in your PC. It's just going to work, and everyone will
It'll
be
plug
happy.
in with USB-C. I know some people were wondering if it was gonna get like a some kind of a display port, because that's what some of the high-end headsets have. Like the Quest doesn't use that, but then it has for the higher resolution headsets, like the ones that are really pushing display, they have a display port option. This is just a USB-C port. I don't see that changing. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, from what it reads, it sounds like people are thinking that this thing is just gonna connect to your PC straight up, like without Sony involvement. Like they're just giving you you'll just connect with Bluetooth, I guess, to your PC. Um, okay, because
Good.
because I'm pretty sure the controllers connect to the PlayStation 5. They don't connect to the headset and then to the PlayStation, right?
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even
Right,
think about
like the
that.
Quest.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't really know. I mean, I kind of assumed, I hope that Sony was going to. I really do hope that Sony's going to bring out some type of a companion app that you download onto your PC, and it handshakes with it's like Steam VR or Oculus, the Oculus store or whatever, so that you could control, like resolution of the headset, all the things that you want expect to be able to control on a PC headset. Like if you go onto Steam VR on a Quest, you can still bring up a bunch of Quest settings, and you can adjust like almost natively how your headset is reacting to get better frame rates and this and that, right?
Right.
Controlling frame rates that the headset's pumping out and this and that. Like I feel like if it's gonna be a PC headset and it wants to play in that game, it needs to go all the way.
I
And
agree. I agree with that too.
I want those. I don't want to just have to rely on Steam VR to be able to do stuff with it. But if Steam VR like recognizes it like an index, and then you're 100% using Steam VR, I'd actually prefer that than the Meta route, because I actually hate having to use like connect the Meta. For those of you who don't know, you connect to like the Oculus. It's still the Oculus app basically on PC, and then it handshakes with Steam VR. And you got to be really careful, because you can bump up super sampling on the Oculus side, and then have super sampling running on the Steam VR side, and you can screw yourself with frame rates and stuff. Like if you got to make sure that you're not double dipping in certain settings, and I'm always concerned that there's still a little bit of headroom lost with the fact that you've got Meta working as well as Steam VR, or the Oculus app rather. So if they just can wash their hands of that, and you can just plug your headset straight into your PC, and Steam VR recognizes it as a native headset, fuck yeah. Um, oops, I got
There he is.
I got it deep. It's deep in the algorithms don't catch it. I am not gonna dance around the fact that, like I've said this before, and I don't want to just retread it because we've talked about it in multiple episodes. I still
Yeah.
don't look. I'm not going to ignore the fact that there is the aspect that this has the aftertaste of Sony washing its hands. I feel like, based on the type of person you are, you can spin this either way. We choose to spin this in a more positive light, hoping that this just means Sony's going to align itself closer with premium VR on PC, and we can just leverage both platforms. I really hope that's the case. I think like all it's going to take is Sony to release like announce their next kind of big first party PSVR2 game, and say that it's that you can also play it on PC, that it's going to be like day one on PC on Steam. and there's the answer. And that'll be the game plan, and that'll be a very happy
Okay,
day.
so I have an update from Ivory VR as of a few minutes ago about this. So
Okay.
according to Ivory VR, these are guys that were working on the PSVR2 mod for PC.
Yes.
So this is what they said. So the PSVR2 needs some kind of adapter that provides 12-volt PD and splits the USB-C into separate DisplayPort and USB 3 inputs. This is still the case and will always be the case in the current hardware version of the PSVR2. Sony has blocked various display parameters, which prevented VR mode from being activated at all on PC. They have talk about their dongle. No adapter yet, obviously.
There will be something.
The latest PSVR2 firmware update provides the missing parameters, so it's not necessary to patch them in anymore. They're talking about their own software. That's basically it. So this is just
Well,
it
it's
needs
good
a
to know. That's
dongle.
good to
So
know. That's definitely not out of the realm of being realistic. That's definitely a possibility. Like, I mean, Sony did it with the PSVR 1 on the PS5. You had to get a dongle, and you had to reach out and get one mailed out to you. They've done it before. And I would imagine that possibly moving forward, that PS5 or PSVR 2 headsets just come with it. They just throw it in the box. I mean, like, they've done this before. So the chances that they do it again, that all makes sense. But that doesn't take away from like my concerns around how it will communicate and what that's going to look like. And just to finish off what I was saying, though, is like, I'm like, it'll be a happy day if Sony announces a big game that's coming out, and it's coming out on PC VR as well. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear that they're like jumping in with like both feet into that kind of premium VR world. Where I get really concerned is that Sony, the other side of that is that Sony's just not making any big huge first party exclusive titles, and they're just opening up the door for us to get as much as we can. I don't know. That I'm just saying, you can't ignore that. And I mean, it'd be extremely fanboyish to not acknowledge the fact that the optics can be very easily spun to be not a good look for Sony, especially considering all the other news that we're hearing that's out there. I'm not one to jump on the doom and gloom train, but I do think that this is now the time and the opportunity for Sony to be a little more transparent and kind of like spin a different narrative, because right now they're not controlling the narrative.
no,
That's their biggest problem. They're letting this happen.
yeah.
It's not good. But I mean, you know what? They're being pretty quiet on the flat side too. So it could also just be a matter of the fact that there is a big change in leadership happening at Sony right now, and that there's the gears are turning behind there about what they're going to do moving. Because there's not a lot to get excited about in the flat world of PS5 right now for exclusives either.
No, and I can tell you
They're keeping their cards close to their chest, so we'll see.
So even upcoming as far as games we know for PSVR2, Genotype's coming right away here. Happy Funland we have Forest Farm, Madison VR would be kind of the biggest one. April we're getting Mixture, Big Shots, Soul Covenant, which is the guys from Altair Breaker and that sword game that we played that they canceled on PSVR1. Now everyone hates the studio. Swords of Gargantua. That's it. Swords of Gargantua. Was that the game me and you played together for a bit?
Yeah, that was yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same developer, and they keep making the same sword battling game with new skins. It seems like not to crap on them. I haven't played the new one, but I saw the trailer and I was like, oh, we're doing this still.
Same thing, yeah.
Like I guess they're third, fourth, fifth time's the charm, something like that.
Yeah.
And then after April, we have nothing in May that I'm aware of, and then Wanderer in June, which would be the next kind of big one. I'm really curious how that's going to play out, just because it's kind of a re-release, and I know
a remaster. I don't know. My interest in Wanderer remastered is, I don't know. I don't even really like the visual style they're choosing. It looks very Quest friendly, like it.
So you said,
yeah, it does, but it does. In some ways it looks better. Some people are like, oh yeah, ooh, like it looks more polished, but it only looks more polished because they tried to stop being as realistic. And the color palette got more vibrant. I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much until we see a lot more. But it's also just still kind of like a remaster, and I just like I played it. I've been there. I've done that, and I'm not a huge puzzle guy to start with, so we'll see. I did really like parts of that game though.
I'm
And
trying to
on
find a news
and on
story here.
that
You keep
note,
talking here.
Wander is actually a nice example of how you do in a better way what Happy Funland was trying to do, and the fact that like there's all these things in its game world that have really nothing to do with the main game, but you could just like mess around with, and you can throw around and shoot things and just play the things and have fun with like the VR physics and just be creative with. Like, I mean, throwing and picking up things in VR was always going to be fun, and Happy Funland just doesn't really do a good job of that. Nothing feels right. Nothing feels weighty enough. It just doesn't operate right. Picking it up is always awkward. Wander did a nice job of that. It gave me similar vibes in some ways to Alex, actually, which is always a compliment. The other big news thing that we have here, which is more of a positive thing, it's just also an interesting thing to discuss, is this big announcement of kind of a collaboration of Impact. Was it Impact? I'm going to screw this up now. It's not. Is it Impact Reality? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
I know,
sorry.
right?
I'm sorry, Skiva. If
And
you're
Wes.
watching here, and Wes, and
Yeah, Impact. You say Impact. Impact works good
yeah.
enough.
So Impact
Still
is
cheap.
they've kind of teamed up with Flat to VR, which, from my understanding, had typically just been kind of a, for lack of a better description, like a blog source for all things kind of flat to VR games.
And you're wrong about that, apparently.
Am I?
Yeah, apparently they were a team like that was helping bring
Oh,
VR
were they
games.
helping me? So that makes more sense then, because what they've ended up doing is they've basically created a studio that's going to potentially, Ryan knows more about this than I do because he's more read up on it, but the idea is that they're going to potentially, their goal is to work with studios, big and small, to officially bring some of their flat games to the VR space. And like Team Beef is involved in that. And if you know Team Beef at all, it's because over on Quest they've released like almost every single boomer shooter into VR, and they've done great jobs of bringing in like 6 degree of freedom when it comes to controls. I mean, they did Doom 3 almost better than Bethesda did the Doom 3 port on PSVR, minus
Tomb Raider. They just did
minus the
Tomb
improved
Raider.
sounds. Yeah,
Um,
they did Wraith, they did Doom, they did Quake. Uh,
Prey. They've done a ton.
they've done a lot. I've played quite a few of them. They did Wolfenstein. They don't mess around. I mean, they put a lot of developers to shame. And if Team Beef can get involved, with directly with studios, and there's maybe a little bit more money, the whole thing is very exciting to me.
Dude, this is super exciting. And this is like we've been, when we first started doing this ages ago. At this point, I mean, we've been saying countlessly like what VR needs. If they're not going to put the money into making brand new AAA titles, then port over the old stuff. We've said it countless times. Like we've heard so many stories of people porting it. The best example I have is Wipeout. 3 guys took the time to port
Was
the
it five?
Wipeout game. There's 3 guys
Damn.
so like, and you hear about these small porting teams. I'm not saying I don't know the work behind porting. I don't. I especially going from flat to VR. I don't know what that entails exactly. But obviously the UEVR thing's a pretty huge deal considering it's just kind of a broad strokes mod for any Unreal game. Not perfect, but amazing nonetheless. And then all the Team Beef stuff. Like Prey Dog, I guess did Unreal. There was the other guy as well. I can't forget. I remember forgetting names now.
But
It doesn't.
The UEVR mod from Prey Dog is probably the big one that's everyone's pointing at
For
right
sure, but the point standing is
now.
this,
That's
this is
plug and
this has
play.
been from these teams who are unofficially modding these games to be playable in VR, and thankfully no one is coming after them by and large, minus Rockstar and GTA VR and
Well,
whatnot.
Luke Ross is probably the name you were thinking of.
Yes, Luke Ross, that's the other guy that I know, or I should say I
GTA
know him,
and
but
Red
know
Dead.
of. But anyways, so the idea of having a studio dedicated to getting the rights to these games and then having the team, Team Beef and whoever else they have there, Flat VR, it's a modding community, so I'm not sure who else is involved, but having that and bringing us licensed games. And I watched a bit of the games cast there, and Wes was talking about it. I caught a little bit of it, and Wes had said he couldn't reveal anything. He said they're already working on one game already, and they have a bunch more planned. They've been talking with developers since the big announcement because they had a presence at GDC, I think just happened. And so they've been obviously, promoting that and as an option. So it's just, this is great, amazing news. My the naysayer in me has to say though is that they still need to get these licenses, and this is the thing that there's a not to say there's a reason, but we haven't seen BioShock in VR or any of these other titles being ported to VR for a reason. And now there's a studio dedicated to that. It's still on these publishers or whoever owns the rights to these games to trust in this team to treat their games with respect. Because the last thing you want is a BioShock port that's garbage. This is not what we want here, right? So there's still, the licensing issues is big. Licensing is a huge issue when it comes to VR. And so the idea of now porting, let's just be crazy here, Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff that people need to. I think that unless I'm proven wrong, I think that's the type of shit that people need to like chill on, because I think that's unlikely to be where this starts.
Right. And so my second scare to that point then is if we're not going to get that kind of level of stuff, which I wouldn't expect either. That to me is insanely lofty to be anything remotely AAA in the last 5 years, we'll say, since the start of this generation of console. I just think that's wishful thinking. Not to say it can't happen, but my second worry before you pipe up is the fact that we're going to get ports of VR of games that we don't want in VR because the licenses are cheaper for these franchises that no one cares about anymore. So it's, we've gotten games like Gungrave VR for PSVR1 or even Zone of the Enders, which I know has some fans. But there are these games, these classic games that got the VR treatment that aren't great. And so my big worry here is that because they're a small studio, because they're a new studio, funding might be limited in what they can afford to buy in regards to licenses.
Well, you know what? We don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
We don't.
Right? I would say that I think from a VR fan and from a business standpoint, I think that what the crew over there is trying to do here makes a lot of sense to me. It actually seems like a prime, like the marketing guy in me, like I could see how I would sit down and spin this with developers and publishers. And you could even point to recent titles like Bulletstorm. I'd be like, "Okay, you don't want your port to turn out like Bulletstorm. Hire us. Because here's our track record." Because really, like almost like Team Beef, and this is working on like, with like probably like, no money and small teams and no access, other than like the source code of these old games. It's like, look at what we did. These guys obviously understand VR. They're VR gamers. Like they know what we want when it comes to like, controls and like an independent hand movement. And it makes a lot of sense to me that they could approach them and be like, we are VR developers. Like this is what we do. We do VR ports. Like that, I mean, it's brilliant actually that a company would try to come out, basically come out from like the VR community itself and be like, this is what we do. You don't want it to turn out like Bulletstorm. You want it to turn out like, like Doom 3. As an example, because Luke has done some, or not Luke, but Team Beef has done some really great stuff. And so I feel like that's how you approach it. And we don't know necessarily what the licensing agreements could be behind the scenes. It could be kind of like, we can't afford the license up front, but they get, but the rights holder gets a lot more money out of the cut up front to cover those original costs. I think who this benefits the most, like just without a thought and not knowing, let's just say they had no new licenses to work with. The people this benefits right off the hop, and it's probably a lot of people that are listening to this, is PSVR2 owners. Because
for sure.
Because PSVR2, like being a console, you were never ever going to get to play none of these flat to VR mods. None. Whether it's Luke Ross, whether it's Team Beef, whether it's UEVR, you're not going to get to play any of those because none of them are official. They're all like actually pretty illegal. I don't know what the Team Beef stuff, the fact that they're using lots of old games like Doom and Wolfenstein, I don't really know necessarily what the license.
Well, and even to Team B's credit as well, all those have been built for the Oculus or the Quest in mind, right? Like those are built to play standalone on the Quest. These older games like Doom 3.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And you had and the way they got around some licensing, you still had to own the original game. So you had to go find an old copy of Doom, like you had to buy some of these games off of.
Because you had to copy like the Steam install files to the Quest.
Yeah, you had to have the original files, right? And so they got away with that. All of these things, you're never going to see these on PlayStation because of that. But this is why it's so brilliant. If they officially get the licenses and can actually package and release these games, and then Impact being the PR firm in this, they can actually also then like market it and get it out to content creators too, to kind of spread the word. Like it all makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Just with even if all they had to give us, like I'm sure us PSVR2 owners, if all of a sudden we knew that in the next year we were going to be getting like Doom 1, Doom 2, Wolfenstein, Quake 1, Quake 2, Duke Nukem, like all of these retro boomer shooters. I mean, and that'd be awesome. And the fact that they might be necessarily actually working in collaboration with some of these studios, um, maybe that gives them the ability to possibly have the creative rights to improve the assets, improve the sounds, like take it to the next level. Because like if you looked at the Team Beef port of Doom 3 VR port, and then you saw the Bethesda, the Team Beef was actually cleaner and did some better things
Yeah,
in VR.
cutscenes were all in VR, whereas
But
the official one
yeah,
wasn't.
but the sounds were totally overhauled on the Bethesda version, and
Right.
it made a night and day difference. And so that's the type of stuff that I'm really hoping that even if they're just playing in the pool of old titles, that it opens the door to possibly actually like remaster these slightly at the same time. Like all of that gets me very excited about what that could possibly mean.
Look, don't get me wrong. Like I mean, I'm naysaying because I'd like to prove myself right, regardless of what I say. So if
No,
down
I
the
agree.
road
I
I
agree.
do, we do see these ports of games we don't care about. These, like crappy, like like who wants? I'm thinking drawing up like anything, but like we get something bad. I'm sure all I can think of is good games now. This is hilarious. My brain's just like firing off in all the wrong directions. But like we get damn, it doesn't matter. But just some
Here, and
not great triple A.
I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. This is the thing, because I feel like when you got the guys from Impact and you got Team Beef, and if Luke, I don't know if Luke Ross is involved in this, but
No.
that community that's involved in there, like they don't do shitty games. They don't seem to, that doesn't seem to be their interest. I don't see them.
Right, but that's when they were just modding games for free. Now with money involved, I think that changes, and that's
I
that's
Yeah, but I
that's where
don't.
my concern comes
But I
from.
can't see them putting a game out just to try to eke some money out of it. Like I feel like it's got to be something that excites them. I mean,
Dude, this is a
I would
brand
be
new
blown.
studio. Like we
I
don't.
know.
This is
I'd be blown away though if they weren't trying to give us titles that at least the community, even if the community doesn't necessarily want them, like not on their list, that they think there's like a real opportunity to bring a gem to VR.
And
Like
just
that
for
they,
the record here, for those that are listening, I actually talked to Chris about bringing somebody on to talk about this, but I decided not to because I want to actually hash our thoughts out about this first.
yeah.
But as we get information, more than likely we'll have someone from that crew, Skeever, whoever, just to actually talk about things. But the story's still brand new and they're not saying a lot. So I just kind of wanted to put out our own conjecture in regard to this before we actually get more facts because, this is what we do here. But no, this is, like I said, this is naysaying aside, this is an announcement I've been waiting for 7 years, 8 years. Like VR should be getting these ports. We should be showing off like, yeah, man, sure you're playing, Wolfenstein 3D, 4 or 5 year old game, but now you're playing it in VR thanks to an official mod as approved by Bethesda or
That's the
whoever.
thing.
Like
Official.
that's
Yeah.
and
You
that's
and
what I'm saying.
you guys watch us, you know that we don't get super excited about PC mods because we just don't have the time or the patience to deal around with jank and hassle. UEVR makes things easier, but again, still you're not guaranteed on the experience. And so I'm really, the more I think about the possibilities of what it could mean to like really approach studios and maybe possibly bring some of these games like properly, with proper support, and to see them out, and to get them out on like the main Quest store and on the PlayStation store, and and on Steam VR, and not just like us having to like hack our way into good times in VR, which is still kind of, I feel like the like when UEVR is your bastion of hope in the PC VR scene, it's not good. It's
No.
not good. I don't mean that to be negative, but that's not a good, like we're illegally getting, or basically we're illegally unofficially getting VR kicks because no one gives us games. It's not a good look for the industry. Um So this is good. This is, you know what this gives me vibes of for some reason is what you call it, limited run
Yeah,
studios.
for sure, for sure. I can see where you're coming from with that.
Like it's kind of like this, kind of like we approaching studios and going, have you ever thought about this different revenue stream? We can make
Hmm.
that for you. Obviously, different mindset of like not trying to cash in. I mean, maybe they do physical runs of it. That would be pretty cool if they thought there was enough demand for the physical crowd. But regardless, that's not my point. My point is it just feels like that kind of that nichey way of kind of like capitalizing on a hungry market. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think that's some really big news, good news to take away. Um,
No, I'm
and
really
it,
looking forward to their first announcement.
I want to,
I can't
yeah,
wait to hear what they're working on. Like I am stoked to hear this because, like I said, like I said, I don't get too excited about these things you just said, but like this is exciting. This is something we've been calling for years. Like, why aren't we getting these games? And I understood the reasons why, but them basic they're removing a huge barrier by now being the ones to port. It's not on EA or Activision or whatever, any of these publishers to then fund this. It's literally now just like, yeah, give us your license. We'll produce the game. We'll just give you X amount of dollars for whatever this thing sells. And we're doing it like, the Flat VR guys are now doing all the work. Like this now removes huge
yep,
hurdles that hopefully will remove huge hurdles and that these studios won't just be like, nope, sorry, VR is not worth it. Cause I mean, there's still, the whole idea of a VR game still failing. Like, if they released Tomb Raider in VR, random example, and it didn't sell.
yeah,
One of the stories I guess we didn't talk about is the fact that Resident Evil 4's concurrent VR user base is up to almost 100,000 players out of apparently 2 million headsets. But that's about 5%. But that's 100,000 people playing in VR. That's not nothing for a singular game. That's almost $1 million in revenue, assuming the game sold for $40 a pop.
hmm,
So that number isn't nothing by any stretch. But there's always that scare that if a game releases on Assassin's Creed is another example, an actual example of it
yep,
not meeting expectation, and the fear behind these licenses being available for VR and then not meeting expectation, and then these studios being like, no, we're just gonna wait and pull license. Like, this is pure conjecture, but this is just the naysayer in me that just has to be paranoid and weird. But like, they still have to get these licenses. This is the bottom line, and I'm really hoping they do. I hope there's a lot of like franchises and games that we do want to see in VR, and not just the big ones, but smaller ones we've forgotten about. They're like, hell yeah, I can't wait to play. You know, I can't think of a game because my brain's just fried
no.
right now. But
But you know what? It's just like when it comes to expectations, though. I think of like Assassin's Creed, and we're still in this weird place in VR where to meet expectations,
ooh, I got
like
a game,
to
Republic
act,
Commando. Republic Commando. I'll see that in VR.
but to meet like, to meet expectations of say like the broader gamer space, and even just anyone who's played PC or PSVR2 games, for a huge chunk of the gaming community to meet expectations, an Assassin's Creed game needed to not look like a Quest game. So, when
Right.
they say it didn't meet expectations, like, okay, but but I get it. They also put it on the headset that had the most headsets so they could sell the most units. But it's like, okay, but those are conflicting things. It's like it might have sold the most, but it wasn't going to meet expectations. It's like your expectations were never going to be met on that hardware, but it was also the only place that you were going to have a chance of sales expectations being met. So it's we're in a weird ass space with that. Um, just back to the licensing thing, I think that people do look. I might eat my words on this, and if I am, Skiva will be very happy to jam them down my throat, I'm sure. But I'm gonna guess that the games that we see come out of this in the beginning are gonna be smaller or older titles. I think that
Agree, 100%.
I think they're going to be in the same world as or the same time period as we've seen like Doom, Quake. I think it's going to be those kind of that era of boomer shooter like pixel art type of games. And I think that for two reasons. One, that's much it's probably much easier licenses to get a hold of because they're just old games, and it's just again new revenue streams for whoever those right holders are. And I would imagine like bigger teams would be needed to take on big games. The other thing is like again, there's the Quest issue. Like it's a business thing, and like flat to VR. I'm gonna guess they're gonna be looking at the Quest as being a headset they need to be on.
I
And
would
so
agree.
that also then immediately limits us. And like, like is a BioShock gonna come? I don't know. Like that would be the one I would point to. I don't know if
Mhm.
if they would try to tackle something like that. Um, Maybe if the Quest 3, if they go exclusive to it, that would make that more doable. All I'm saying is that if they, flat to VR, they were very much PC focused because that's where that world existed. And I guess and also on the Team Beef Quest stuff. But as soon as it becomes a business thing, it just becomes what we were just talked about. The Quest. It's where the money is. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
100%.
It'll be really cool. Yeah, guys, we'll make it our mission to get somebody on here. To maybe once we start to get a little bit more info out about this, we'll see if we can get some of the guys on here to come talk directly to us and you, and we'll see if we can pick their brain. See if we can get some
No,
good.
that's for sure a plan.
Yeah.
This is like I said, this is really exciting news, and like I said, I thought about having one of them on this episode, but I really wanted to get our unfiltered thoughts out of the way, so then when we have someone from the team on, they can just shut us down completely and tell us all the wonderful things they're planning. But definitely keep an eye on that. I'm sure every major outlet and social media is just waiting for these guys to say, and our first game is like we're just stoked, right? And ideally, like I said, porting should be a lot quicker than developing. So ideally, if they get some momentum and get things going, we should see that studio hopefully put out a lot of games that we have been waiting for.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be exciting. Yeah, just more news, more news. We just need information, but I guess leaving things on a high note as we're 90 minutes here. I think it's just an exciting development. It's just one of those things. I think we were talking about it a couple episodes back there around we talked about the infancy of kind of the VR scene. We've seen it with VR, we're seeing AI right now. It's kind of like sometimes you have technologies that just come blazing out of the door and then but people just don't know how to do it yet. They don't know how to properly like package it or sell it or utilize it. And I think that we could see VR start to grow and change in ways we didn't expect it to. And this could be one of those things, which is really interesting, right?
I 100% agree. Like I said, this is some of the best news we've gotten in a while in regards to, like I said, not only just like for us, but enthusiasts, but just getting the message out there that that VR has more to offer than just Quest games. And I hate to say it like that, but that's not too far off from the truth right now. And VR needs some positive mainstream attention because what's happening right now with the news and everything we talk about in this podcast, unfortunately, is that a lot of it is just kind of it's very doom and gloom right now. And PSVR2 is kind of driving that doom and gloom ship. Quest, another news article we just messed is like Quest is giving away like a bunch of millions of dollars to a bunch of to fledgling studios to develop the two it's like 26 million or some crazy number to basically give to upcoming studios to basically like show us what you think you can make, and if your demo looks awesome, we'll help fund your game and develop it for our headsets. That's Meta putting millions back into the VR market. So there is, you got to search for the happy stories here, but they're definitely here, man. Like, VR is not going away. That's always, as much as, as much as we can definitely be a little bit down about the current state of VR. VR is not going away. It's, the fact that we're already on the second generation of the PSVR2, like the fifth or generation of the Oculus Quest, if you include whatever models they keep throwing out there. I mean, the Quest 3 Lite is coming out apparently very soon, or the Quest 3S, whatever they're calling it now. Like VR is not here; it's here to stay. It's just we're just riding this wave of hiccups and bumps until it either catches up to, or at least gets a lot closer to flat gaming in regard to just money and install base, man. All it's going to take is the right few games. If you can play, everyone's so stoked for San Andreas coming on the Quest 3, which is, apparently it's still happening. Apparently, but that's, I shouldn't say apparently, that was a bogus post I just kind of thought about. But my point being is that if people can get excited for like a damn near 20-year-old gaming coming to VR, then that shouldn't be a problem to generate hype for bringing other 20-year-old games to VR, just to be like, hey man, yeah, like look, like I said, BioShock's the example we keep going back to, but yeah, man, BioShock's like, dude, I just bought Fallout 4 finally in VR today because I have a Hank. I'm on the Fallout hype train. The show's starting like in a few weeks, and I was talking to a buddy today about Fallout, and I was like, you know what? I love Fallout. I'm finally gonna play this, and I was like, oh, I actually don't own it. Went out and bought it and installing it, and I'm gonna play some Fallout VR and enjoy me some AAA in VR ahead of the show. But
You bought a new graphic card, right?
no, but I have that laptop with the 4070 in it, so we're gonna see. We're gonna test. We're gonna test this bad boy out with Fallout 4 in
Because
VR.
it's definitely a game that needs some horsepower.
I know it needs some beef. So like I said, we're gonna test this laptop out and see how that goes. And if it goes sideways, then I mean I need a new PC at this point. The new graphics card's not gonna save my PC. It's 4 years old almost. No, it is 4 years old now. It's old.
Yeah, I know. Just like just like it's time to get a PS5 Pro. You know what? Look, just quickly about this whole doom and gloom thing. Like I mean, you and I have like one of the things that we definitely have agreed on around this podcast is that we will not sit full of sunshine people's asses. We are not going to fanboy out on you. And like I said, like when it comes to PSVR2, it's like this is not good news. This is not good optics. But and you have to acknowledge that it's not a good look, man. This could not go the way we want it to. That's very possible. To say anything else other than and just to acknowledge that at least is just pure fanboy. I think it could go a different way though. Like Sony could be slowing production to release a revamped version of it. We don't know.
Yeah.
And this whole and just like productions ebb and flow as well, and it could just be something as simple as that their expectations were higher than they anticipated. That happened with the PSVR1. That's nothing new.
Yeah.
Expectations not being met is like a VR standard.
I know, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like you said too. Like even the PSVR 1 had its second iteration of a headset where it got the Customer 1 and the Customer 2. Where yeah, so of course, I mean, like I said, this is but obviously they had stopped producing the Customer 1 because they were making the new headset with the built-in, the microphone, the buttons were in the headset or whatever they changed.
Yeah,
They changed a few
released the
minor
V2.
things. Yeah, but because of that, obviously they would have stopped production on the first one. So, like this story is from Bloomberg. The story isn't from Sony. Sony isn't like, by the way, guys, we've stopped it. We don't know. This is like I said, it's an article from Bloomberg, pure conjecture, fueled by the current PSVR2 hate train, in my personal opinion. So it's easy to pile on, but it's like this happens all the time in tech. And it's not great news, but it's not the end of the world news. The end of the world news.
It's not the news that Sony wants coming out, but like I said, at the end of the day, Sony's biggest fault here, and this is the one that we keep coming back to, they need to control the narrative, and they're not.
Yeah,
that is their biggest failure. They're having a failure to communicate.
Hire us, Sony. We'll get the message out there for you.
Yeah, we are totally a fit for your brand. On that note, guys, I think we'll peace out here. Thanks a lot for sticking around and shooting the shit with us. Again, thanks to our patrons. You guys are awesome. Anyone with super chats, we appreciate that. It's awesome. It's always appreciated. And yeah, we've got a couple of reviews coming out next week. Like I said, the embargo dates are coming up around the 28th, so keep an eye on the channel around that period in time. And I'm going to also be putting out a more concise kind of take on happy, fun, not so fun. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was gonna say, guys, congratulations to everyone who got codes. I gave out a fair bit of codes this episode. I still have a ton more. So if you have a Quest headset and maybe don't hate us, come back next week. I might have more codes to give away. I've got so many. I didn't realize how many I had till I was going through this. I still have, I swear to God, man, like 60, 70 codes.
You whore.
It's not that. We didn't have a reason. We didn't have an outlet to give them away. So I'm trying to, this is us giving back, man. What other podcast constantly gives you away game codes the whole episode? I mean, that's going to die at some point in time, unless you guys are into PC gaming, in which case I have like so many more codes.
Yeah.
That's all I got though. So yeah, come back for us, stay for the codes. I don't know. Come back for the codes, stay for us. Something like that.
Yep. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll see you guys next week. As always on the Virtual Boys Podcast.
Hey.
Good night.
Good night.